what we are doing in our live session number 2. So this would also set it up for our next 2 sessions where we get into the marketing mix. So product and price optimization, we will understand that better once we have an overview of consumer behavior analytics. Broadly, we have a bottom-up approach that we are taking to build our understanding of marketing analytics over here. I'll talk about it more shortly when we look at the customer journey part. Then tomorrow we have a session. I guess tomorrow we have a morning session around 10:30 or so. So we'll take it up on product and price optimization then. Okay. Now, let's get quickly into the plan for our session today. So first we'll do a quick recap of the key concepts so that we can again get refreshed with whatever we learned in the last 2 sessions. Then we'll get into the details of our agenda today, which is looking at analyzing customer behavior and value, how we can learn it in maybe those steps which we can implement also on the industry side. So we'll first pick up the key customer data points. We'll look at what are the metrics which can rest on these data points, and how can we use these data and matrices in real life for segmentation or classification problems, as well as for prediction of customer lifetime value, and so on and so forth. Now, this is something which is critical for business. You want to have those customers remaining with you, which give you a lot of value. So it's kind of a win-win situation which should be there between the business and the customer. Then we can have a sustainable business proposition. We will end the session towards discussing churn prediction. So we discuss about the concept of churn, which I'm sure that you guys are aware of. But we look at how we can predict churn, what are the things that companies are doing on the industry side as far as churn predictions and control is done. So over here, let's get into our quick recap of key concepts from marketing analytics last session. We discussed about marketing. A lot of us come from non-marketing background. So we all got together with an understanding that when we refer to marketing, we are thinking it from the business perspective. And a very simple definition that all of us can carry forward is we want to meet the needs of the masses in a profitable way. That is how we think about marketing, whether it is digital marketing or let's say the offline marketing part. Okay. So whether it is television, whether it is, let's say, radio, any channel, any distribution format, any product, this is the definition that we kind of stick to. Now, over here, apart from this, we discussed about IDA model. Now, this IDA model is related to the customer journey itself. So it makes it very simple to understand marketing analytics or data analytics. You will find that in real life, there are 4 questions that we deal with when we are thinking about data-backed decisions. If you look at from the customer perspective, for the customer, the question is, what is the product or the service or the brand, or what is the company? What is it about basically? This is where we are trying to get into the awareness phase, or can we get more attention from our target audience? If they're interested, if they're aware, then can we get them interested? Can we bring them to a situation where they're liking the content that we are putting in front of the customer? It can be an advertisement, it can be any format of content, newsletters, any other thing which is there, maybe even a celebrity endorsement and so on and so forth. Can we spark that interest, which can get into the next phase, which is desire? People are looking forward to maybe transact often with our products and services, or maybe the content that we are bringing on the digital front, non-digital front. And finally, is it culminating in an action? Okay, is the purchase finally happening or not? Purchase is one decision or one action which every business is looking forward to. So this IDA model is something which will be followed for structuring all the things when we discuss about data analytics. We also discussed that if we use the IDA model, then probably we can divide this entire module that you guys are going through into 3 areas. Okay, so customer analytics, product and pricing analytics, and campaign analytics. Now, today our focus is on customer analytics. And why so? Because if I kind of look at from the customer journey perspective, if I kind of expand the IDA model from awareness, consideration, purchase, service to loyalty expansion, we are beginning towards the bottom of the funnel. Okay, so bottom of the funnel means we are looking at post-purchase or nearby purchase, what is happening just after the purchase decision has been taken. From that perspective, can we learn about customer behavior? Okay, so that is the customer analytics module about an entire session today. Then tomorrow, when we kind of have the morning session, that will be talking about product and pricing analytics. Most of these decisions are pre-purchase, and can we study the impact using data, which can probably help us with product decisions, which can help us with pricing decisions. So this is basically the mid part of the funnel. After we are good to go with customer analytics and product and pricing analytics, you will find that it'll be much more easier the campaign analytics section, and it'll be much more a straightforward process. Okay, so here it will be about reaching out to the masses, making them aware. So can we do some campaigns? Can we create those ads which can go viral? How would we monitor whether things are going in the right direction or not? That is the thought process we are setting it up. We also discussed that if we break down these three different areas of analytics, we can use MDM model, which is data, metrics, and methods. In all the three analytics, we will look at the data. So if we'll today look at RFM segmentation, I'll show you the raw data. Then what metrics we can evaluate from the data, and what is the method that we follow in order to gain meaningful insights. Okay, so this is something which is the approach which we had set up in our last session. And this is where we started talking about that broadly. When you talk about any kind of marketing analytics, you can, let's say, especially in the age of big data, we can divide the problem into 4 parts. So we have descriptive analytics, which is about explaining what has happened. Okay? This is where we had, I guess in our last session, we had that a group discussion, or where we had the breakout room, and then you guys presented for 2 telecom companies, Jio and Vodafone Idea, what is the descriptive analytics, what is the diagnostic part, explaining why things have happened. Based on that, we would want to look at or forecast what might happen, and then probably based on that expectation of the forecast, we can have prescriptive analytics, which is recommending action based on the forecast. Okay? So typically, these were the 4 areas in which any analytics can be kind of clubbed into. So this will be setting it up for our thought process. The last point where we ended our discussion in our last session was different types of customer data. So just to structure it a bit, we look at customer data, which gives us identity of the customer. It can be demographics, it can be what interaction customers are doing. We can organize our database on the company side by looking at core marketing data. This data is individual to a brand, its products, the company. Social media data, lot of social media data gets generated. So probably this is kept in a different database altogether. We also want to look at what is happening from the macroeconomic perspective. Okay, so for example, in India, you guys would have seen recently the inflation numbers were out. Does anyone remember what is the inflation rate which recently came out? Is it above 6% or below 6%? I guess last week the news was there, right? Or maybe this week itself. Below 6%, right? So we are kind of there close to 5.5 to 5.6%, which is actually quite a good number. Okay, yeah, 5.5% is what Ashish is saying. So similarly, there can be other macroeconomic parameters, and typically there is a framework that we use. I'll just mention it over here. It is not a part of this module as such, but pestle analysis, probably you guys would have done, some of you would have done or heard about. So this is political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. Okay, so these aspects is what people study for macroeconomic perspective from the marketing point of view. Okay, then brand equity data is about the brand itself. It can be a product brand, it can be the company brand itself. We want to look at what is the awareness, recognition, and recall. This is where we had ended our last session. Okay, now we will carry forward from here towards specific on the customer behavior analytics side. So first of all, let's look at from the MDM perspective. Let's start with the data part. Okay, so we look at key customer data points which we need for understanding customer behavior. Okay? Now, in order to do that, the first question that we need to answer is, who's the customer and is it different from the consumer? Okay, so I open this question to all of you. From the technical perspective in marketing, do you think customer and consumer is different, or is it the same? And you can mention about it in the chat, or you can talk about it. Let's see what people are saying, and don't worry about being right or wrong. Okay, Rohit is saying customer buys the product, consumer uses it. All right, very nice. So UVN is saying it is different. All right, so I guess all of us agree that probably it's different. Can it be same also? Does it depend on the product category? Okay, Rohit is saying most time customers and consumers are same. Okay, Rohit is saying most times probably it can be same. Rohit is also saying that it depends. Ashish is also saying it can be. All right. So depending on the product category, it might be possible that customer and consumer is the same. It might be possible that they are different. Okay. For example, if you look at Netflix as a service, then in that case, mostly customer and consumer would be the same or different. If you take Netflix or any other OTT platform as an example, most of the time, the person who's recharging the Netflix account, they are most of the time the consumer as well and the customer. If you look at an example which is where the customer and consumer are different, can you quote something? Anyone? Can you think of a brand? Okay, you've been saying family is consumer, person recharging is buyer. All right, fair enough. Laptop, okay, Shrikant is saying laptop is a category which is where probably the customer and consumer might be different. And how is that, Shrikant? So laptop has come as one. Okay, books have come as a great example over here. Books for kids, okay, very nice. So I guess kids, all the categories you will find where consumers are different and customers are different. Okay, so basically what happens is as a marketer, we all of us have a question, which is, should I look at consumer data? Should I look at customer data? Okay, let me pose this question to you guys shortly with an example. Rohit is saying laptops purchased on mass basis by IT organization for the employees. Organization customer, all right, fair enough. That's a good point from Rohit. Okay, so even in a B2B scenario, what we have as a simple definition is whether it is B2B or B2C, customer is the person who's taking the decision, purchasing the thing. Consumer is the one who consumes. It can be same, both customer and consumer can be same. It can be different as well, depending on the product context. Okay, so let me give you one example, and then you guys suggest what would you do in this case. Okay, now over here, we are looking at an example which is for kids. Okay, and I am sure that all of us in our own childhood days, we would have always kind of having these choices between Bonvita, Horlicks, and Complan. Okay. Now, the images that you see over here, they will have a particular appeal for different segments of the customers or the target audience over here. You can look at Bonvita. They're kind of talking about a different proposition. Horlicks would be in their own way talking about things. Complan is slightly different, and so on and so forth. But the question for all of you is, suppose as a group, we are in the same team and we are in the marketing of these kinds of products, then will you target the customer? Customer maybe in this case would be the parents who will be buying the product, or would you target the kids who are the consumers of the product? Okay, what do you guys suggest? Okay, and don't worry about being right or wrong. There is no perfect answer. So let's have opinions. Okay. So Rohit is going for targeting kids. Manmeet is also saying consumers. All right. So kids is what majority of the people are saying as of now. Okay. Yuvin is taking a different approach. Yuvin is saying I'll target the customers. So maybe the parents. So the question over here is, do we target parents or should we target kids? Okay. Try to remember about the advertisements that you see on television for Bonvita, Horlicks, and Complan. Do you see any particular approach that they follow? Can you recollect of any particular approach? Which are these ads? Okay, parents are the decision makers. Children can influence, is what Shrikant is saying. So Shrikant is roughly saying both are important. Okay. Parents feed kids. All right, fair enough. So is it the parents who are taking the decision, or what Shrikant is saying? Actually, the decision is influenced by kids. Okay, Rohit is also saying, I'm a Complan boy, I'm a Complan girl kind of slogans. Okay, the slogans, the communication is very specific to the kids itself. Okay, so that's a good point from Rohit, influencing kids. All right. Great. Okay. Have you seen that ad where I'm not sure if it is from Bonvita or Horlicks, where the uh, mother and the son both are kind of, running and trying to build their stamina. And in the background, you have either Bonvita or Horlicks, which is kind of boosting their energies. Okay. So have you seen that ad? I think it comes on television quite often. Yes, right. So over here, the approach that most companies have taken is whenever we are in a situation where probably both can influence the decision, final decision, in that case, we might go for that kind of communication which appeals to both. Okay. So let's target them as a group. Okay. Let's target both. Let's show in those advertisements also, show the mother and the son together. If mother is the one who is shopping most of the time, let's go for mother. Okay. If it was that father was shopping most of the time these products, then it would have been different. Okay. But you will generally see both the customer and the consumer appearing in most of the ads. And yes, in the kids also play a part over here. And finally, the parents are basically taking the decision. So this is something which is where the approach might have changed from product to product. Okay. Now, why this example is brought over here is also from the perspective of opening a new thought, which is sometimes the data that you need for your marketing analytics might also be influenced because of this. Okay, so over here, we might need some data to study the kids. We might need some other data points to study the parents, okay, or just study the family. This is something which is where the complexities for a marketing analytics person arise. Okay, so we need to be open to the situations. Now let's take it forward. Now, if you look at what types of data in the background of customers, consumers being the same or different can be helpful for us. So there are 4 questions broadly we can try to answer. The first question is, who's the data about? Okay, or who's the customer or the consumer? So this will help us in establishing identity. So we club this under the identity data. Then what about these people, okay, or what about these customers or consumers? Can we have some quantitative data? Let's say, how big is the market? How big is the potential? What kind of frequency is there for buying? What kind of requirements are there? Descriptive data would be why this demand is there, why the product is required, why these people act in a particular way. Attitudinal data about how these people are making decisions. Is that influenced by prices? It is influenced by the quality, and so on and so forth. So typically these 4 questions: who is the customer? What about the customer? Why this customer would take or act in a particular way? And how this customer would kind of proceed in the customer journey. These are the 4 questions which we try to club our marketing analytics or customer behavior data into. Now, aligned with this, we can have customer metrics. Okay, so let me talk about some of the key customer metrics, which kind of we try to capture. Now, think of post-purchase decisions. Okay, after the purchase has happened, what can be an important metric to look at? Okay, so one of the metrics which you will find across all the companies is customer acquisition cost, or CAC. Okay, CAC, or customer acquisition cost. This is something which is what varies from industry to industry, and every company would want to know broadly what is my customer acquisition cost. Further to this, we might want to know this cost, is it same across my product lines, across my brands, or across my services. Okay, so let's look at the definition first. Even in your asynchronous content, very simple examples have been provided. So customer acquisition cost, if you would have checked over there, this is nothing but total expense we had to make for attracting the customer, getting the attention, awareness, consideration, engaging them, and converting them. So making the purchase. Okay. So in the journey, whatever is the total expense that was done by the marketer, divided by the number of new customers acquired. Okay. So we look at the new customers every month, look at the total expenses that we did, and then we try to arrive at customer acquisition cost. Okay. Now, this is a very important figure because you can look at the trends of your customer acquisition cost to do a lot of things. Let's look at these things one by one. So first of all, over here, you will find that in most companies, sales and marketing are working together to acquire the customer. Okay, so we can try to look at what is my efficiency or what is my value add from both sales and marketing. So sometimes we can look at my cost of sales plus cost of marketing divided by total customers acquired. Sometimes you will find that sales function is reporting to the marketing team. Sometimes it might be reverse, but the customer acquisition cost concept remains the same. So the joint effort, or let's say individual efforts of the functions, is one thing that we can try to kind of study using the customer acquisition cost. The most important thing that needs to be kind of clear for is the business model approach. Okay? So let's say a very common sense thing would be, whatever is the cost to acquire a customer, this should not be higher than the lifetime value of the customer. Okay? So let's say if I acquired a customer at 100 rupees, this customer should pay me at least 100 rupees, okay, or more than 100 rupees in the lifetime. Okay? Now, this is important because if the situation is as shown on this infographic, which is where the cost to acquire a customer is too high and the monetization is very low, and in that case, it is out of balance model. Okay. Now, can you think of any recent examples from the Indian market where you find that currently the business is following this out of balance model? Okay, Manmeet has already pointed out one, which is Cred. All right, Cred is a great example. Anything else that is coming to your mind where the business is still having, I mean, they're paying a lot of cost, incurring a lot of cost? Zomato, very nice. So Zomato, Swiggy, roughly most of the startups, heavy funded startups, the idea is that, let's fund the cost to acquire customers through external funding, in the hope that probably in future the monetization will be much higher. Okay, so most of the startups, let's say when you look at these fundings on seed level, Series A, Series B, at least up till Series B, the idea is gain customers, whatever is the cost. Over a period of time, you want to build. Ola is a great example as well from UBN. So over here, in all these companies, what happens is, for example, Paytm these days, you would see that Paytm has announced that now the focus has turned from acquiring customers to monetization. Okay, in fact, they are trying to be EBITDA positive. That is or operationally they want to kind of break even in the next year or so. That is what Paytm is working on. Okay, so for us also, let's say in my case, when I was starting my own business, at that point of time, our team, or in fact, me and my wife, we initially thought always that we will keep our cost to acquire customers much lesser as compared to the LTV from day one. So that is what was the thought process from the beginning, because we didn't want to raise funding externally. Same is the example that you will find in many companies. Okay, so let's say if I give you some examples on scale, Zerodha is one example, which always kept its CAC on a lower side as compared to the monetization. Okay, so this is something which is where they followed that they'll not get into huge advertising, they will not get into huge promotional spends. Rather, they'll try to focus on making the products better, and over a period of time, they will be able to gain whatever customers they want. Okay, so this is something which is where there are companies which take both the approach. Sometimes you want to kind of bank on the funding. Sometimes you want to kind of go on the product focus approach. Okay, and neither of them is right or wrong. Both the ways businesses are built. If you also look at from the industry perspective, the customer acquisition cost does vary from industry to industry. So here, this is just one example. So let's say if you look at telecom, okay, so telecom, technology, banking, and insurance, generally the competition is also very high, and the cost of Yugen, please go ahead. So you can. I'll just unmute you.
I unmuted myself. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Please go ahead.
No, just I want to understand. See, once the company spend on CAC, that is cost of acquiring a customer. Okay,
Yeah.
one that the financial, as you said, now this is a Paytm example. See, they already spent the amount on CAC. So that means that financially is over, as expense part is over. Now, how they will balance this one through LTV? Because that cost will come in the previous financial year. If a new financial year, how they will match this one? How to understand this one?
Okay. All right, great. I think it's a good question. So let me give you my example, what we did in this case. So see, first of all, customer acquisition cost is, let's say, the question that Yuvin was raising, acquiring the customer is a cost for this current financial year, or let's say 1 year. LTV might happen over a period of time. Okay, so the question is, how do we balance out? Because maybe I'll acquire the customer this year, so my cost is gone, but maybe this year there was no revenue which came in. Okay, so then in that case, what should we do? So in this case, what we did, UV in our case was, and quite a few companies, what they do is they capture the LTV and CAC over the same period of time. Okay, so this financial year, how many new customers were acquired, and over this financial year itself, how much was the lifetime value or the total amount of revenue that we generated per customer. Okay, so that solves the problem of this asymmetry that you were talking about. All right. So Yuvian, is that good to go? Okay. So from the accounting perspective, that is what we do. Okay. Similarly, let's say if so let's say even from accounting perspective, if you see, you will see that revenue, whenever it is earned in a particular year, we look at the corresponding cost in that year itself. Okay, so that is something which is called as the revenue matching principle. I'll not get into the accounting side of things, but yes, to answer your question, this is what we try to do. Now, coming back to what I was doing in my company. So in our case, instead of taking the customer acquisition cost and LTV over a period of 1 year, we used to follow a 6 months model. Okay, so if I let's say gained a customer by spending money in, let's say, April, then by September I should be able to get whatever revenue I can get from that customer. Because after, if the customer has not bought any product or not attended any workshop till then the propensity we found out over a period of 2 years was, it is very difficult after that to kind of get the customer active or purchase something. It might happen, but still the possibilities or probability was very low. Okay, so companies can define their timeline for CAC and LTV accordingly, and then they can simplify this aspect. Okay, all right. I think it was a good question though from UVN, and okay, let's look at another. Okay, anyone else? Any other question? And then we look at this industry side. Okay, I think we are good to go. So over here, generally you will find wherever the ticket size is higher. Okay, so ticket size in the sense, let's say if you go and buy a house or real estate, and this is where, first of all, the cost of the house itself is high. So whenever people need to make a higher amount of purchase, in those industries, typically the customer acquisition cost would be on the higher side as well. Okay? Second thing is depends on the competition. Okay, so for example, let's say telecom is a very competitive space in India nowadays after Jio came into the picture. So if it is easy for customers to move from one company to another or one offering to another, then also there will be struggle on the customer acquisition cost. In certain cases where the product is a commodity means, for example, if you're selling vegetables, now vegetable, let's say there are people who are selling through e-commerce, there are vegetable vendors which are coming, there are shops. In these cases also, you will find that typically the competition is intense, and that is where if it is a commodity, then probably compared to the revenue that we can generate, the customer acquisition cost is quite competitive. Okay, so there is a variation across industries. Now here, if you look at travel, retail, consumer goods, typically the costs are lesser as compared to, let's say, banking and insurance, telecom, software industry on the IT side, and so on and so forth. Overall, our conclusion would be CAC would vary from industry to industry, and let's say whichever industry you guys are working on, do try to get an idea of what is the customer acquisition cost in the industry that you're working, compare it with the competition. That helps to understand the industry better. Now, we use this CAC or customer acquisition cost for channel benchmarking also. So one is competition benchmarking. Okay, Ashish is saying nowadays auto industry is mostly following the booking before manufacturing delivery. Can we say this also based on the customer? Okay, that's a very good point, in fact. So let me open this question, interesting one from Ashish to all of you. So what Ashish is saying that if you look at auto industry, okay, whether it is two-wheelers, four-wheelers, what is happening is over here, they're allowing pre-booking. And in fact, real estate industry also allows pre-booking. So let's say you have pre-booked the car before the manufacturing is happening or before the delivery is happening, like it was happening in the case of Nexa Baleno. Okay? I think all of you would have seen. For Baleno, there was a huge waiting period. So in this case, what Maruti or Nexa they're trying to do is, let's build the order pipeline, and after that we will manufacture. So over here, do you think this is where it's a nice way of accommodating for customer acquisition cost? Do you think this is something which every company can do? Okay, I'll just repeat the question. So what Ashish has mentioned is a company like, Maruti, when they're launching Baleno, there is so much demand that they are first taking the orders and after that producing the product. Okay. Is this possible for every company? The answer is no, right? Like Yuvin is also saying it depends on the brand image. Of course, it depends on the brand image, and also it depends on the product. It depends on the demographic, economic perspective. For example, during pandemic, every company was suffering. After pandemic, the pent-up demand is picked up. This is where, especially let's say last year and this year itself, it has been very good for passenger cars. So this is where, let's say from a customer acquisition perspective, what is happening is my CAC over here, I'm aware of initially itself. I will price my product in a way so that my CAC is covered in my first purchase itself. Okay, so as soon as people buy my car, before I produce it, I am sure I'm relatively sure that the product will be sold. After that, also there will be recurring revenue in form of service and so on and so forth. So this is something which is a fantastic model. But in order to achieve that, there is a lot of groundwork required. So generally, the point that Ashish you mentioned, this would happen for established brands, established products. Apple is another company, which is where you'll find that if you're in the marketing team, especially on the data analytics side, your job would be to figure out what is the demand. When will be the right time to launch the next version of iPhones? Okay, so that is where they ensure that their CAC to LTV ratio, I mean, let's say LTV to CAC ratio is always greater than 1. I'll manufacture when I already have a guarantee that my product will be sold. Okay? So they can do it on a global level also. All right. So Ashish, does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. So let's move further. Then let's look at also a few other areas where we can benchmark, CAC. So I was talking about the competition benchmarking. This is an area which is very interesting. So over here, you will find that if you're working in the retail industry or let's say e-commerce industry these days, you would want to know what is the marketing spend that is happening in the industry for a category. You would want to know for your company, are you spending more than that, less than that? Because that will give you an idea of the customer acquisition cost. Okay, so typically, let's say in e-commerce in India, where there is a intense competition shaping up, you have Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Snapdeal. As a e-commerce person, let's say if you're in the marketing or let's say business development teams, you would want to get an idea of what is the customer acquisition cost on Amazon, how is it on Myntra, how much on Flipkart, Snapdeal, are they kind of close together? or is it like the customer acquisition cost of for my company is very much higher as compared to others? Okay, so these kind of data also is what analytical people want to look at, because that will help them to optimize their spendings, not only let's say at an overall level, but also in the categories. Okay, so let's say just for an example, suppose furniture, the cost of customer acquisition for furniture for Pepperfry is suppose very low as compared to let's say Amazon. Okay? Then in that case, Amazon has a way to go for working on targeting, working on making better product features available, and so on and so forth. So based on that, we can set up our direction. This is where CAT comes into picture. Now, apart from these areas, if you look at the overall benefits of keeping the customer acquisition cost low, so there are specific teams. For example, these days you will have people working in roles like growth hacking. So this is one of the roles. You will find a lot of opportunities these days in Bangalore, in Mumbai as well, Delhi as well. So over here, these roles of growth hacking, on one side, you want to gain more and more customers. Secondly, you want to keep your customer acquisition cost as low as possible. You want to optimize your budgets. Okay? This is where, if you look at keeping the customer acquisition cost focus, probably we can work on identifying opportunities which can help us to bring cost efficiency. It can help if the cost is good to go. I mean, if the costs are relatively lower as compared to competition, then probably our business is getting more sustainable. Also, we can spend the money to reach more customers. So brand recognition gets a push. This will help us in getting more market share and overall improving the profitability. Okay? So the focus on customer acquisition cost, for example, if you're working in a company like Amazon itself, they have a separate dedicated team. Okay, so to work on optimizing processes, optimizing costs, and this is an interesting work to look at. This is where the data analytics does come into picture. Okay, now interesting question over here would be, I guess we have talked about customer acquisition cost, and all of you understand about what are the things which are possible in the industry side. The question for all of you is, suppose you are running your own business, or you are in a company which has been set up, maybe a product has been launched, and you are the product head or product manager, or let's say the marketing head. Can you suggest, in the era where we are today, can we have zero cost of customer acquisition? Is it possible? Can we have zero cost of customer acquisition? All right, Rohit is saying probably word of mouth, referrals. Okay, very nice. Any examples, Rohit? Any examples, Vishwadeep? So a product or a brand which is selling, okay, Rohit is saying Upgrad. So Upgrad, they do have, I mean, they pay for referral. Okay, so Upgrad is paying for referrals. Upgrad also is running ads. Okay, Yuvan is saying maybe life-saving drugs. All right, so life-saving drugs probably, but they're not marketed as such. So yes, probably maybe one category. Any particular brand that comes to your mind, which is where, or any product or any service which is selling on its own. Okay, zero cost of customer acquisition. Okay, Vishwadeep is saying DMart, probably OnePlus when they initially launched. Okay, Shrikant is saying OnePlus when they initially launched, they were kind of trying to achieve this. But OnePlus did heavy advertising also. I mean, television, I think they were doing something. Ashish is saying Zara, probably. Okay. Okay, think of things which are not business. Okay, it's kind of mix between business and I mean a non-business part. Rohit is saying probably Patanjali. Patanjali did have yes, some products, I think in case of Patanjali did would have zero cost of acquisition also, because it was more referral. But anyways, yoga is a concept which we sold to the world without any acquisition cost, in short. If you look at religion, in the religion side, there are a lot of offerings, right? Which have zero cost of customer acquisition, by the way. You don't need to advertise in many cases, and you can have huge, massive base. Okay, so that is one area or approach, which is where there are case studies which are done. Okay, so how can we sell products in the same way? This is the same experiment which even companies like Zerodha, they were working on. Okay, so Zerodha, if you look at their name itself. The idea was kind of create such a good product that it sells on its own. Okay, so in that case, if the product is so good, then you don't need to sell. Basically, you don't need to have marketing budgets, and so probably word of mouth should keep on happening, and people might start buying, and that should bulge. Okay, but yes, we in real life also we have some teams which work on organic marketing. So in each company, you have organic marketers, and you guys would have heard about things like SEO, search engine optimization. Have you heard about this? And similarly, yeah. So search engine optimization is one category where the idea is without spending any money, can you, sorry, without spending any money, can you get traffic from Google or a search engine, Google, Yahoo, Bing, and can you have products being sold? Okay, so this is, let's say, one example. All such areas where it is about organic stuff, which is zero cost of custom, zero CAC. This is a very nice role to be into. I know about Amazon; they have a very big team on SEO itself. If you look at even Google, if you look at companies which are big tech companies, yeah, Google in their earlier phase, Facebook also in their earlier phase. Yeah, recently they started advertising, or they needed to kind of monetize things, but customer acquisitions have happened on the zero cost as well. Okay. Now, CAC is one of the metrics. The other counterpart of this CAC is customer lifetime value. Okay. Now, let's look at the concept, first of all, of customer lifetime value, because sometimes this word lifetime is confusing because we are not able to define sometimes what do we mean by lifetime? Is it like till the time the customer is alive, or is it like till the time the customer is making purchases? So we try to kind of look at customer lifetime value over a defined period that is identified by the company. Okay. So over here, customer value, first of all, is average value per order into the number of orders, which is the number of transactions. And if we club them up over a period of the lifespan of the customer, which is the time period we can define, or let's say the time period generally till when the customers are there with us, this is where we get the customer lifetime value. This concept is very simple. Compared to CAC, which was to acquire the customer, we are looking at what is the total value or the revenue we receive from the customer, or the money we receive from the customer. Now, how to calculate customer lifetime value in from the data perspective? So generally, let's say when you're dealing with huge number of customers, you might not be able to do it manually on an Excel file. So we build systems for this. There are many tools available. Sorry. So over here, we do 5 steps. We look at average purchase value, which is like historical data can be seen. We can look at pricing data. We can look at total revenue divided by the number of purchases. So first number comes up, which is on an average, this is my purchase value. So now this average purchase value, let's say at the CEO level or at the top management level, Amazon would want to know, what is my average purchase value generally? What is that ticket size? Is it more than Flipkart? Is it more than Snapdeal? Is it less than Myntra? And so on and so forth. Okay. So this average purchase value itself can be a good indicator of benchmarking. The second part is average purchase frequency rate. Okay. So how often the transactions are happening. Okay. So this is also easy. We can look at the entire year. We can look at total number of purchases which happen. Now, interesting thing over here would be number of unique customers who made the purchase. That is something which should be known to us. That would set up the average purchase frequency of every customer. Higher the better. Now, if the frequency is higher, then compared to the purchase value, this gives us an indication that maybe people are recalling about the brand again and again. They are finding it good. They are finding some value. That is why they're coming back again and again. The third step would be multiplying the above two numbers, average purchase value multiplied by average purchase frequency rate. This gives us the customer value. So we are halfway through the mark. The step 4 would be, what is the lifespan of the customer? So let's say we look at the sum of customers' lifespans divided by the number of customers. So what is the average lifespan? We can look at for the largest amount of time which customer has been there with us. Okay? The smallest would be, let's say, 1 day or so. In that case, we look at average customer lifespan, and then we have simple customer value multiplied by average customer lifetime, which will give us the customer lifetime value. Okay, so this CLV is something which is which we want to be positive. Just like, let's say, maybe some of you over here would be investing in stock markets or mutual funds or something like that. You would want to make an investment, which is your cost, which should give you a return which is more than the cost. Maybe this happens over 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, you're fine. So this is the same logic that we have over here. Your solution over here would be, as a company, you would want to offer maybe a free trial version of a product, let the user get activated, and then yes, UVN, you're correct. So okay, I think there's an interesting point that we can raise from your question. So we are looking at overall customer lifetime value. We don't need to look at individual customer lifetime value. What we need, however, is the segmentation using the customer lifetime value. Okay, so this is where we'll have a live demo where we will look at something called as RFM segmentation that is based on CLV. Okay? So there, I'll show you. If you want, you can also look at individual CLVs, but from the decision-making perspective, what we are more interested in is the segments. Okay, so can we divide our entire customers into some specific segments that is more important as compared to individual CLVs? All right. Now, over here, before the customer moves out or churns, whatever was the revenue that we got, that is what we'll kind of encounter for our CLV. Okay. Now, generally, customer lifetime value is considered to be a very good indicator for segmentation of customers. And we can one way look at what is the entire lifetime value, which is basically net profit contribution of the customer to the firm over a period of time. In any company, you would want to create a graph which will show you what percentage of customers are very profitable. These are your prime customers probably. What customers are profitable and what set of customers are non-profitable. Okay, you do have non-profitable customers. Let me give you an example. So I was working in a company called Rupee Circle. Okay, I just type in the chat. So this company was into P2P lending. Okay, so P2P lending stands for peer-to-peer lending, and this company was basically based out of Mumbai. I was heading their marketing and products team. This was, I guess, around 4 years back, before the pandemic. I guess 2017 or 18, I had joined. Now, at that point of time, the product was that we had a website and a mobile app through which you can, as an individual, you can register as an investor or you can register as a borrower. Okay, investors were people who are looking forward to invest money, and borrowers are people who are looking for loans. Okay, so P2P is something which is a platform which connects these two people. On one side, we have people want to give money so that they can get returns. On the other side, we have people who are looking forward to take loans and they're ready to pay a interest rate. Okay, now this is where we were looking at, let's say, the investor side of things, and we figured out that the customer acquisition cost for us at that point of time was around 2,500 rupees for getting one good customer. Okay, over a period of time, we brought it down to around 450 rupees. Okay? When we started, it was 2,500. Now, what we also learned in this journey was, after a period of 2 years, we started realizing that not every customer we acquired is good, because there were many customers which were acquired, let's say, between that 400 rupees to 2,500 rupees. But the only investment that they did over a period of 2 years was 5,000 rupees. Whereas there were huge number of customers which were spending or investing more than 50,000, and there were some number of customers who were investing more than 1.5 lakhs. Okay, the highest would be, let's say, around 15 lakhs. Okay, now this is where we realized that if you looked at the data, those people who were investing small amount of money, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, these were the people who were complaining a lot as well. Okay, and who were asking for too much amount of customer service, many calls, many messages, emails. So a lot of my service cost was getting spent on those customers where the CLV is very low. Okay, so then we started segmenting. Then we started figuring out how can we not reach out to these customers via our ads, via our marketing channels, and so on and so forth. How can we learn more about these 20% very profitable customers? Can we target only them? Okay, so this is something which is where CLV segmentation, and we will talk about RFM anyways. This does help. Many companies uh, are there which just focus on their 20% very profitable customers. Many other companies would have a further level of segmentation, and the companies are ready to have the 20% non-profitable customers either churn out, or maybe can we move them from non-profitable to the profitable part? Can we design the product or offering from them? Okay, this is the thought process that the marketer would carry. Uh, yeah, so when you're correct, this is called as the Pareto principle. So I think have you guys heard about this Pareto principle? 80% of the business comes from 20% of the customers. This is called as a 80-20 rule also. So you will find that this applies in various scenarios. Sometimes, even if you look at your personal success in life, that 20% effort that you made in one direction covers for the 80% of the effort that you made in all other directions. Okay, so just that 20% chance is what we need to succeed. That is what this Pareto principle says, and it's a good one. In fact, applies to many scenarios. So here as well we can apply. Now, coming to what will we do out of the CLV part, or the customer lifetime value part. So one example was I was telling you about segmentation. So can we differentiate our segments of existing customers? Can we have different pricing strategy, premium for some customers? Can we have a pro version of our product, and so on and so forth? So that level of segmentation can be done. Can we do something about loyalty programs to keep retaining our profitable customers? This is basically the focus on retention. So segmentation is done basically on the basis of CLV. Then pricing model. I think some people had raised the question also about pricing analytics. So one input goes from here itself, that using your CLV, you take pricing decisions, okay, for acquiring new customers also, and for looking at retention of existing customers. So this pricing model is kind of generated out of the CLV part. Packaging decisions or promotion decisions, these are also kind of roughly taken through from the perspective of looking at the CLV. Okay, so let's say when you travel through an airline, you will find that there is a normal check-in window, and there is a separate special guest check-in window. I think for business class or premium economy class, you would have noticed these kind of segmented offering, whether it is in terms of pricing, packaging, promotion, service. These are the things which help us to kind of ensure that we are treating or greeting our customers in the way we want it. Okay, this is something which is which are the decisions which we can take on the basis of CLV. Okay, now CAC and CLV, these are two matrices which are directly related to the consumer behavior. Okay, another metric which, from the company point of view, everyone is interested into, and we do keep it under the purview of the customer behavior analytics, is revenue, because revenue can tell us a lot. Okay, now this revenue is very simple: the money generated from normal business operations. So total amount of money that we receive over a month, over a quarter, over a financial year. This is a very simple thing: total products sold multiplied by the sales price of those products. That is what the revenue is about. Okay, so over here, from the revenue perspective, let me show you some interesting aspects. In fact, before I show you this part, let me first check with you. How many of you are aware about number of banks in India? Total number of banks. Take a guess. Total number of banks in India. Okay, Manmeet is saying probably 10 plus. 10 to 12 national banks, Vishwadeep is saying. Okay, so we have close to 12 public sector, 12 private sector banks, so 24. Anything else that we are missing? Okay, so currently you have 100 plus banks. Okay, 100 plus different banks operating in India. Public sector, private sector is one part, but you also have regional rural banks. You have payment banks. You have foreign banks which have set up their operations in India. Now imagine this is how fragmented the market is. So many players. Okay, so in that case, how do we figure out the market structure? This is where revenue is a great thing to kind of look at. Okay, easy number. Now I'll show you one part over here. We look at Screener. So let me take you to this website itself. Okay, let me open this up. You can do it for any industry. Okay, so suppose maybe some of you would have worked across different sectors. Some of you would have worked in few industries. Suppose you want to know about the structure of a particular sector, which companies are there, what is the composition, and so on and so forth. In that case, we look at revenue data, and I'll use a tool called Screener over here, which a lot of people who are investing in the stock markets, they use it. Now, I'm using it just to kind of drive the point on revenue. Okay. How many of you are aware about this tool, by the way? Have you used Screener? Anyone over here? Okay, Ashish is saying yes. Rohit as well. Okay, Yugin is saying no. All right. So let's see it for everyone. Now, those of you who have used it, you would already know that this is a tool which is where you can, in a few clicks, understand about the financials of a company. Okay, so let's say I take you to this screen section. What we'll do over here is, in this screen section, we go on the right-hand side. Now, look at this number of sectors. Okay, so there are 121 sectors into which Indian economy is divided. Okay, all these sectors are listed on the right-hand side. Okay, for example, agrochemicals, air transport service, alcoholic beverages, banks, cables, and so on and so forth. Okay, cement, all of them. Okay, now what you can do over here is, maybe later on, you don't need to create an account. You can use this tool for free of cost. Just go over there and click on any sector. Okay, so let's say I'm picking banks over here. Let's look at the number of banks which are listed in the Indian stock market. Okay, so in the Indian stock market, we have 37 banks which are listed. Okay, now of course, which is the largest bank in India? Largest bank by size, SBI, right? So State Bank of India is the largest bank. And over here, if I show you, let's say, how do we get that number? We get that on the basis of revenue. Okay, so revenue tells us, first of all, what is the composition of the market, and also who are the major players. Okay, so let's say if you look at sales, and this is annual sales. So in India, State Bank of India has the highest revenue. This is like close to 3 lakh crore or 2.89 lakh crore. HDFC Bank is the largest private sector bank, and its revenue is half the size of State Bank of India, roughly. So this is something which gives us an understanding. Okay, you can do it for any sector. Similarly, after that, we have ICICI Bank. Then you have Punjab National Bank and Bank of Baroda. These are the top 5 or the largest 5 banks in terms of the revenue. Okay, now as a, let's say, whichever industry you're working into, maybe spend some time, get into this tool, figure out in your industry which is the 5 largest companies, listed ones in terms of the market. Okay. Now, apart from, let's say, looking at this revenue aspect, you can kind of quickly look at others also. Let me take one more example. Let's look at automobile. Okay. Now, in automobile also, let's look at the revenue part. So we have, 18 companies which are listed, and Tata Motors is kind of getting the highest revenue, followed by M&M. Then we have Maruti Suzuki, Bajaj Auto. These are the top 5. Okay, followed by Hero MotoCorp closely. But it gives you a good picture. And especially for those sectors which we are not aware, this can be a good insight to look at. Okay? Now, if you also look at the analogy for, or let's say the understanding from the revenue perspective, then I have an interesting question for you. The revenue is one part, which is basically the total amount of money that the company is making Out of this, they have to spend on costs. It can be employee cost, raw material cost. It can be taxes, interest, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'll show you an interesting part over here, and you have to tell me what is going on for this particular situation. Let me first take you back to the let's say screener, and over here, let me take you back to the banks. I'll take you to HDFC Bank, and I'll show you the revenue component and also the overall profit and loss statement. Okay, remember we are not into accounting or financial discussion, but just for your quick understanding, let's look at what is happening. Okay, so we have a bank over here. We are looking at HDFC Bank and their quarterly result. The first number that we are looking at is revenue. Okay, now they're earning 47,000 crores quarterly, and this result is for March 2023. So Jan, Feb, March, the revenue was 47,000 crore. This has improved with respect to December. So compared to December, this is better off. If you look at the history of this bank, quarterly from, let's say, in 2020, this was around 31,000 crores, and now it has grown up. Okay, so the situation is improving. HDFC Bank's revenue is going up. Similarly, you can check it out for Maruti. You will find that now situation is much better. Now, out of revenue, we need to pay things which is our cost. Okay, so let's say a bank will have interest as a cost. Okay, so on the deposits that are there, savings account, fixed deposits, recurring deposits, they need to pay money. So that is interest cost. Then you have expenses, any other expenses which are there for employee costs, administrative costs, and so on and so forth. So let's say that also comes into picture. If we subtract this, let's say from 47,000, if we subtract the interest and expenses, we are arriving at something called as financing profit. Okay, this is, in other companies, it will be called as operating profit. We can convert it as a part of revenue. So here also revenue comes into picture. When you want to compare across sectors, you look at operating margin. In a bank, it is called as finance margin. This is operating profit divided by revenue. This gives you an understanding of whether to look at, I mean, if you look at Indian industry, IT sector is IT and pharma. They have the highest operating margins. Compared to that, automotive would be kind of in the middle. And then you have banks. Maybe the, can you guess which is where the operating margin will be the lowest? Can you take a guess? If you're running a business in India, which industry gives you the lowest margins? Okay, as a proportion of revenue, take a guess. Don't worry about being right or wrong. Ashish is saying e-commerce. Okay, you're very close. Nitin is bang on target. Retail industry is the most competitive one. Okay, so retail, you have very low margins. Let's say something like Shoppers Stop, Pantaloons, D-Mart, Big Bazaar. If you're running things like that, that is very difficult business. Okay. Now, apart from this, there can be other income which the company is earning beyond their operational part, and we can have other costs which are, let's say, taxes and so on and so forth. So here you have 12,000 crore, which is the profit for this particular bank. Now, let me show you the same situation. I'm sure that you would have understood this. Revenue, with revenue benchmarking, we look at operating profit, and then we finally have the overall profit, which is where I have a question for you. Look at the situation of another bank. Okay, now this is the situation for State Bank of India. Okay, look at State Bank of India. What is happening? Revenue is good to go. I mean, revenue is increasing positive. Financing profit is negative. Okay, operationally things are negative, but overall profit is positive. Now, can you tell me why? What is happening over here? How come we have operating profit which is negative, but overall profit is positive? Okay, Ashish is saying due to NPA. No. Anything else? So this is just to understand the revenue part. Okay, charging penalties. Okay, very nice. You have close UVN. So UVN is close to the answer. Advances is what Ashish is saying. All right. No. Okay. So just to understand revenue, I had put this question. So this is happening because of something called as other income. Okay. So you will see that other income can be, let's say, penalties. So let's say, yeah, For example, you would have seen that check bounces. Whenever you have a check bounce, you end up paying charges. Similarly, let's say if you're doing NEFT, RTGS, you have charges. Okay, so all those charges are very good for SBI. Okay, so SBI as a bank is not earning from their operational business. They're earning money from other income. Okay, so when we think about revenue, always think about minimum balance, penalties, and so on and so forth. So the point over here is sometimes when we understand about revenue as a marketing analytics person or a data analytics person, do not look at only the core revenue. In many companies, you will find that there is an other income component which is equally important to study. Okay, so just wanted to drive this point, and this is what I have concluded over here. Types of revenue. You have operating revenue and non-operating revenue. Operating revenue is the core focus of your business. Okay, non-operating revenue is coming because you're there in the business. Okay, yeah, UVN, please go ahead. You can talk about it. Yeah.
No, my question is, see, they are not able to make the profit from the regular operations, which is the core operations.
Yes.
But they are generating income from the non-core operation.
Yes.
But can we say that they are not expertise in core operations like that?
Yeah.
If that is the case.
Yes, you're correct. So that is why, let's say, suppose if you are an investor, if you're a stock market investor, you would prefer to invest in SDFC Bank as compared to ICICI, because ICICI are also the same situation like State Bank of India. Okay. So ideally, when you want to make an investment decision, or if you want to kind of look at the growth of your company, you would focus on growth of your core operation. If that core operation is struggling, then non-operating revenue can go anytime. Okay? This is something which is which you're correct. We should conclude that there is something wrong on the operating revenue side. Now, I'm not saying that State Bank of India is doesn't have good employees or doesn't have a good CEO and so on and so forth. There are sometimes there are external pressures, okay, on public sector banks, because of which they have to drive mandates and so on and so forth. So that can also be happening. But in private sector, probably that should not be the case. They're always, if you look at ICICI Bank, Axis, IndusInd Bank, in all the cases, you will find that operating profits are negative. They are making money from non-operating parts. SDFC Bank is the only exception. And then another exception would be probably Bank of Baroda. Okay, it's a good bank. Similarly, in automotive industry, look at Maruti, look at Eicher Motors, Bajaj Auto, Hero MotoCorp. Interesting examples you will find. Okay? Anyways, for us, coming back to what should we kind of do then from the revenue perspective. So over here, when we want to have our revenue model, basically we are working on creating customer value, identifying their needs, creating products for which there will be demand. We assist these products with marketing, make people aware, ensure that the product sells either online or offline. And in this process, we generate revenue, which is sustainable. That is something which we want to kind of work on. And you will find that there is a different approach which has happened in case of new age companies. Initially, the focus is on revenue, and then later on, the focus will be on profit. Okay? These days, things have been like this. But otherwise, in traditional settings, the first focus is on profit, and parallelly, we focus on revenue. Okay. Now, you guys tell me, in case you want to do a startup these days, which one would you want to focus on first? Would you want to focus on revenue first? Would you want to focus on profit first? What will be your take? Let's say you're setting up a business which is about marketing services. Okay. Suppose you have to set up sell a marketing analytics tool. In that case, would you kind of focus on revenue, or okay, you are saying I'll focus on revenue, or would you focus on profit? Okay. Rohit is saying gain the market share first and then profitability. All right, great. So over here, I guess two people have mentioned the strategy. What Jio followed. Okay, Jio, when they entered the Indian market, it was also the same thing. Let's focus on revenue. Now they are focusing on profits after they have already acquired the market share. Okay, so over here, if you have deep pockets or if funding is not the problem, then in that case, yes, we try to capture the market and we keep capturing the market, keep noticing that by the revenue that we're building. So this becomes an important metrics as well while we're looking at customers aspect. Okay. Now, apart from CAC, customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, and revenue, which are more of a financial parameters, let's also look at the customer voice side. Okay, so this is where we have a concept called NPS or Net Promoter Score. Now, first of all, let me ask you, how many of you have heard about something like this, Net Promoter Score? Have you, I mean, in your own work experience? Okay, Rohit is saying yes. So Rohit, in your company as such, or in your work experience, or you read about it? And open to others as well. Have you heard about something called as Net Promoter Score? So over here in your company for the operational tickets we solve. Okay, nice, great. Okay, you've been saying heard academically. Okay, so in my company as well, currently at Vodafone Idea, this is my first experience of running the Net Promoter Score. Okay, so this is one program that I'm driving on a national basis. So over here, this is from customer experience perspective. Now, let me explain it to everyone so that all of us are on the same page. So Net Promoter Score, basically what it suggests is how likely people are ready to recommend your products and services. Okay, so let's say there was a customer who has bought my product and service. After that, are they willing to recommend our products and services to others or not? This is what we try to measure on a scale of 1 to 10. So let's say if we just ask one question, which is how likely you are to recommend our products and services to your friends, family members, relatives, and others. Okay. Now, the response can be on a scale of 1 to 10. If the response is between 1 to 6, we call them as detractors. Okay. So these people are not willing to recommend. If it is 7 or 8, we call them as passives. Okay, so they are neither positive nor negative. If it is 9 to 10, we conclude them as promoters. Okay, and Net Promoter Score is how much percentage of promoter was there minus percentage of detractors. Okay, so let's say there were 100 customers, and out of 100 customers, suppose 80 were promoters and 20 detractors, 0 passives. In that case, 80 minus 20, 60 is the Net Promoter Score for my company. Okay. Now, this is just a very simple example. If I also tell you about the usage of Net Promoter Score, so Net Promoter Score is used on a historical basis to see if things are improving. Are people recommending more and more or not? We also use it for competition benchmarking. So let's say in telecom industry, we look at what is the NPS score of Vodafone Idea with respect to Jio, with respect to Airtel, and we do it on a particular set frequency, quarterly, monthly, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, let's also look at how exactly this would happen. So mathematically, this is what is happening. 0 to 6 are detractors, 7 to 8 is passives, and 9 to 10 is promoters. And the answer is very simple. Percentage of promoter minus percentage of detractors is what we call as Net Promoter Score. So very simple calculation. If my Net Promoter Score is positive, then we are doing good. At least we have most people recommending things. If my Net Promoter Score is negative, then it's a trouble-seeking situation because we have more detractors. Then we need to really look at if my marketing strategy is going wrong, if my customer service is not great, if my product is not good, and so on and so forth. Also, we look at if my Net Promoter Score is increasing over a period of time or is it going down. So this helps really in terms of assessing if we are going in the right direction with respect to my customer experience. And in any company, we can also monitor what is my percentage of promoter, what is my percentage of detractor, what is my percentage of passives. We try to move detractors to passives, passives to promoters. That is a flow that we try to maintain or manage. Now, if you combine NPS with customer lifetime value, that can be a very good segmentation to achieve. And we want to see people with high customer lifetime value, are they promoters or not? So those kind of correlations can also be thought of. This is an example of how the net promoter scores, I mean, globally also net promoter scores are used. And this is where people have a specific range which has been observed. So generally, if you look at insurance industry, insurance and third-party products like mutual funds and all, this is where you see a huge variation. Okay, so the leader would be having a very good NPS, and maybe the laggard would be struggling a lot. Okay, in automotive industry, generally there is a variation from 30 to 60, and most industries are in that range between 30 or 25 to 50. This is range for various industries. If you're having an NPS which is above 50, you're doing a good job. If you're having an NPS which is below 50, then probably there needs to be a improvement or which needs to be done on the product side or the other areas. Another factor, so sometimes companies use net promoter scores. Sometimes they might substitute it with another metric which is called as customer satisfaction. So I'm sure that CSAT surveys all of you would have done. Have you checked that when you kind of travel in an airline, you're given these surveys where you have to rate your satisfaction on a scale. Are you very satisfied, unsatisfied? Have you seen that? I guess in Starbucks also you would, or retail stores also you would have participated in those surveys. Okay, so generally the scale would be very unsatisfied, unsatisfied, neutral, satisfied, and very satisfied. Okay, so sometimes you will find that CSAT is a very simple method which can be easily implemented. In most of the B2C companies, you will find a measurement of how satisfied the customers are with the product, service, or encounter. This is what people use. Okay, so this is slightly different from net promoter score. There it was about percentage promoters minus percentage detractors. Here it is about specific instance for a product or service, were you satisfied or not? Now, what is a good CSAT? Okay, even for car servicing these days, Rohit is saying they will, yeah, I think even in my case, good that you pointed that out. Honda, I think they give us a link these days and ask for a customer satisfaction score. Even when you take these Swiggy, Zomato deliveries, you are supposed to rate your experience, right? Rate the, give a rating to the delivery guy. That is also customer satisfaction measurement. Okay, so what is a good CSAT score? Though it can vary from industry to industry, company can have their own benchmarking as well. But 0 to 50, this is where things need very huge amount of improvement. Fair between 50 to 70, 70 plus is quite good to go. We generally demarcate it on a score of 100. Okay, so very simple, straightforward measurement. If we compare CSAT versus NPS, which is generally the question that comes to people's mind. So customer satisfaction measures how satisfied a customer is with specific area of your business. So product, delivery, service, specific function, if you want to check, a specific experience, if you want to check, then CSAT is the concept that companies employ. NPS is looked at from the overall company perspective. So brand related studies are generally better off when we look at net promoter scores. Okay. All right. So over here, I've also jotted down some advantages and disadvantages. CSAT is generally very detailed. We get customer feedback also along with the CSAT part. The disadvantage is probably low response rate if people are unhappy. People don't want to fill the survey itself. NPS, however, is a different exercise because it is happening on the brand level. But here the granularity is generally lesser. Okay, so we are not able to kind of figure out the specific instances or specific areas of improvement. But this can be an can be an overall measurement of customer loyalty, and if done in combination with CSAT, NPS can be really helpful. Those companies which are into specific customer service areas, this is where quick service delivery whenever it is required. Then there are two matrices which are also in existence. So one I have captured over here, which is the average resolution time, or we call it ART. Now, whatever was the total duration of the conversation to resolve your complaint, query, request, divided by the total number of conversations. Okay, so generally companies measure this or monitor this on a monthly basis, and we try to have a target. Can we bring down the average resolution time? Another metric which is very close to ART is FCR. Okay, so FCR is first contact resolution. So in your first call to the company, was your problem solved? Okay, so that first contact resolution is a measure of how effective is my contact center in resolving your complaint. Okay, so this helps in training the front line to solve customer problems. These are all the things which probably you can find in real life as well. So FCR these days is a very strong metric for call centers, especially when we outsource it to a third party. Okay? So first call resolution is looked at from the perspective of if there is operating cost which is optimized, if we don't need to transfer the call beyond the first contact, then probably we don't need or additional resources. So operating cost gets better. Customer will also not churn. They will be happy. So this will be improving the CSAT. Here CSAT can come into picture. It might also help in overall NPS or the brand loyalty perspective. There can be opportunities to sell. If you solve the problem of the customer at one go, generally customers are very much delighted. And these are the areas which can help us to probably take better approach towards customer service. Okay? The last metric that we have captured over here is called as CES, or customer effort score. Now, customer effort score is something which lies between CSAT and NPS. Okay. Now, customer effort score is while your problem was getting resolved, how much effort the customer had to make. Okay. Was it like a huge amount of effort? You asked them to call, you asked them to visit a particular store, and so on and so forth. So we ask a question to the customer, tell us how much effort you had to make, or was it a huge amount of effort? Strongly agree and up till strongly disagree. You can ask various kind of questions over here from the to observe the customer effort. And this is another metric which some companies use to look at consumer behavior between, let's say, fitting in between the CSAT and the NPS part. Now, it is not mandatory that we have to use all of them. We can go as per the specifics, but let's say over here, this is a standard question which airlines normally ask. The company made it easy for me to solve my problem. Telecom industry, you'll also find this in retail industry as well. This is a typical question that we try to survey out. Okay. So these are the matrices that we have. Just give me 1 minute. Here, these are the matrices that we have overall. We will use these matrices to kind of go to the next part of the session where we kind of look at how can we apply this to take decisions. How can we do the segmentation based on the context of these metrics? So I think for that, this is where we will take a break. We'll break for 10 minutes and then we'll catch back. I think it's 8:30. So let's catch back at 8:40. And then we'll move towards RFM segmentation, a live demo, and what are the things that can be built on the context of these matrices. I hope the matrices are clear to everyone now. And let me know if you have any questions or queries. You can post them in the chat. We can take it up straight after the break. Okay. So we catch back at 8:40. Is that good to go? Okay, great. So let's catch back in 10 minutes. All right, everyone, are we back? Shall we start? Shall we start, Dave? Okay, great. Okay, so what I'll do first of all is I'll quickly just mention about all the matrices that we have discussed. There were many. So we discussed about customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value, the revenue on the financial side. And we looked at customer service area and the brand loyalty area, which is where NPS, CSAT, ART, FCR, and customer effort score. These are, I mean, this do cover almost the entire area, which is where measurements are being happening in the industry as far as the consumer behavior analytics is concerned. The next step, what happens after this is we employ methods to kind of take or drive decisions on the basis of these data and matrices. There are 5 major types of problems that marketing analytics or let's say people who are coming from big data background, they're trying to solve for. One is classification. Okay, classification problem in order to segment people, classify them in a particular segment. Correlation problem, which is where we try to study the cause and effect. Is this causing the another thing? X is the cause of Y, and so on and so forth. Charting things to identify anomalies or spikes. Okay, something unexpected. Did it happen? What was the reason for that? So outlier study is something which we do through charting. Then we have something called as clustering. Okay, so let's say if we have huge amount of data available and we want to find out, are there any things which can be grouped together? That is called as clustering. This is another problem. So 4th problem roughly over here. And then there is a regression or something called as prediction. Okay, so on the basis of whatever we have observed in the data, can we predict something for the future? These are the 5 kind of problems that you guys would also deal with in the marketing analytics space. Now, one of this area is what we will kind of try to do a demo on, which is regarding segmentation. Okay. Now, I'm sure about you guys would have gone through understanding what is segmentation. In fact, when we study marketing, we start studying about segmentation, targeting, positioning. So let's take a quick rewind first of all, and then we'll go to the demo part. Now, have you guys gone through segmentation in marketing, which is like geographic segmentation, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral? So we want to divide the target audience and do it in a scientific way on the basis of certain segmented parameters. Okay, so these segmented parameters are either geography. For example, I can divide Indian market on the basis of states, regions, cities, and so on and so forth. I can further define the segments on the basis of demographics, which is age, gender, income of my target audience, and so on and so forth. It can be psychographics. For example, let's say what kind of interest people have. Some people are interested in cricket, for example. It can be a target audience. Behavior in terms of their past trends of buying things, buying our products, visiting websites, where they're buying, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are different parameters. Now, how do we use segmentation? Basically, when we want to optimize our marketing budgets, we would want to know which is the target audience we are dealing with, and accordingly have our plan of action. Okay, so this geographic, demographic, psychographic, and behavioral, this is a very standard set of segmentation parameters. There are other interesting one as well. For example, over here, if you look at this pyramid, which we were talking about in our earlier session, every particular segment, depending on their age, experience, let's say location, various other aspects, would be having or trying to satisfy some specific needs. Okay, so for example, maybe the older age groups are towards esteem and self-actualization, kids are towards safety, physiological needs, love and belonging, and so on and so forth. So the broad objective of my marketing communication gets set based on, let's say, the segment I'm dealing with. Another quick example would be, let's say, segmenting based on generations. Okay, so over here, let's say if we look at this infographic, now this is based on US data, but let's say if you look at the year in which you were born, you can be classified into these 4 generations, baby boomer, generation X, Y, Z. So let's say if you're born after 90s, let's say 1997 and on beyond, then you're generation Z. If you're born in 80s, roughly, generation Y in India, generation X. If you're born before 80s, if you're born in 40s and 50s, or maybe early 60s, this is where you're a baby boomer. Okay. Now let's see over here. Can you type about yourself in the chat? Which generation you belong to yourself? Okay. I belong to then born in 80s, so I guess 1986 for me. Okay. Let's see how about the mix of our batch. We have UBN Gen X. All right. So we have 1 person from X. We have 2 people from X. We have 2 people from Y. Okay. No one from Z, I guess. Okay. We have quite a few Y category people. Okay. Now let's see an example of segmentation. For those people who are from generation Y, do you remember about media super games? I mean, the video games which used to come. I think summer times you would have spent some time on playing Contra, Mario. Okay, somebody is saying yes. Okay, yeah, I guess. See, now as quickly as I mentioned about Mario, Super Contra, I mean, all these things, we can quickly have a flashback. We can quickly think about that probably we have certain things which were common in our childhood. Okay, and there would be many such things. Okay. So quickly, we can understand about the target audience. Similarly, if you look at Generation X probably has been the most hardworking generation, at least in India. If you look at, they gave the platform to Generation Y, and then Generation Y is giving it to Generation Z. This is a typical flow which we are having. Another example, if you look at maybe social media, for example. Now, if you look at Generation Z, probably the social media platform that they grew up with was Snapchat, Pinterest, and so on and so forth. But how many of you remember about Orkut? Orkut, do you remember? Anyone used Orkut? Probably, if you remember, we used to write scraps. Scrapbook was there, testimonials, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, that means if we segment people, we have a better understanding. Okay. And I can, as a marketer, I can talk to you in a language which we understand, which we had common experiences. So this makes the marketing better as well. Okay. The storytelling also enhances. The same thing is over here with respect to another way of segmentation. So suppose you are working in a global marketing role. In that case, you want to understand how India is different from Pakistan, how Pakistan is different from UK, how UK is different from US. If that is the thing that we need to work on, then we segment on the basis of not individuals, but households. Okay, so let's say here is a segmentation which is used in India. We segment people on the basis of households. So let's say education level of the chief earner of the family, illiterate to postgraduate. What is the occupation from, let's say, being an unskilled worker to, let's say, a senior executive, and so on and so forth. Okay. So on the basis of this categorization, we can classify all the households in India from A1 category to E2 category. Okay. Now, A1 is where you have almost the affluent segment, where most of the consumer durables are present. That, let's say, a car is there, you have a two-wheeler, you have, let's say, ACs, washing machines, refrigerators, and so on and so on. Suppose in these A1 households. E2 are the deprived ones, where you have nothing available, probably a very minimal set of things which are there. Okay. Now, as a marketer, we can look at the country and we can try to understand the demographic profile by studying the SEC classification. So this one is called as SEC or socioeconomic classification. In the global context also, these kind of classifications are used for segmenting people. So there are many ways in which we can do these segmentations to get better with our targeting, reaching the people. Instead of, let's say, if you look at this chart over here, it depicts that I can reach out to my target audience with a very broad sentence. Okay, that, for example, I'm selling let's say a chocolate, and you can have this chocolate, you will enjoy it. This is a very broad sentence. Compared to this, I can have a questions targeting. Okay, do you want a premium chocolate with, let's say, hazelnuts? Okay, this is a very specific targeting. So this is where if you do broad, you will require more budgets. If you go very specific, your budgets will be lower. You'll have more chances of success as well. This is where, depending on the situation, we might want to leverage segmentation, and finally, this helps us in building the positioning, which is the identity of a particular brand. When the brand exists in our mind, it can be because of the functional aspect, symbolic aspect, or the experiential part. But broadly, this is the exercise that we want to achieve. Okay. Now, let's see an example over here from our customer behavior perspective. So we are discussing about a segmentation called as RFM segmentation. RFM stands for recency, frequency, and monetary. Let's look at this segmentation with the help of a live demo. This is what you guys would generally work with when you're dealing with large data sets and existing customers we are trying to segment. Okay. So recency over here refers to how recently the transaction has been made. Okay, what has been the timeline for the last recent transaction? Frequency is the number of transactions which people are making, and what is the monetary value of each of these transactions. So we can combine this RFM to segment my target audience, to segment my existing customer base. Roughly, the logic over here which is being used is the CLV part. Okay, so I can have this right hand side, which is where I can have customers which I cannot lose, which I have customers which are loyal, I can have customers which are champions, and we need to come up with this kind of a segmentation. Okay, so in order to understand this, I'm taking you to a Excel file which I have generated over here. Let me know if are you guys able to see this Excel file. So you would have a telecom based data. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Rohit. So over here, look at this data. We have customers, unique mobile numbers. We have gender data existing. We have, let's say, resident code, basically the PIN code. We have whether these people are married or not. We have Aadhaar KYC, whether it was done or not for these customers. What was the last recharge date? How many times the recharges have been done, and what has been the individual values of those recharges. Okay, so this is a typical data set we have. Now over here, what we need to do is we need to understand what is RFM segmentation. If we are given this kind of a raw data, how can we interpret and perform RFM analysis? Whether you're doing in Excel, over here I'm showing in Excel because this is easy to kind of present and understand. You can also, in real life, you will be doing it on Python, R, using the programming and dealing with large data sets. So there will be tools available. For example, one of the tools which is there used by companies would be, let's say, 9. Just one example that is coming to my mind. Some of you have SAS, and so SPSS, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there are many tools existing, which is what we can kind of use. Okay, now what we need to do over here is, as a MBA X student, we are just like doctors. Okay, what you need to basically know is how I should make decisions, and what should be those decisions which I should be able to make on the basis of, let's say, any data set that is given to me. Okay? So over here, looking at this data, yes, Rohit is saying last recharge date is equal to recency, which is good. So how frequently the customer is recharging is cumulative frequency of recharge, and monetary value is the sale value, which is perfect. Now that is the RFM part. Now on the basis of this concept, how do we segment out the customers? That is what we need to look at. Okay, so for that, there will be questions that should come to your mind. Let's look at the questions, first of all, which I have for you. So over here, just now, a few points which have been mentioned by Rohit. I'll just input them on the Excel file shortly. But the question that I have for you is over here. Let's say the first thing that we need to know is how many customers are there in a data set. Okay? Suppose we want to know about this. Okay? Second, we want to know, let's say, what is the time period of this data? Okay? So from which date to which date? That is another thing that we need to look at. Okay, for any data set, it will be the easiest problems that you're dealing with. Beyond this, we want to also understand, let's say, how to segment people on the basis of RFM data which is available. What will be those RFM segments? What will be the logic of defining them? How do we automate this process? And how do we take real-time decisions? Okay, this is something that you guys would deal with from the practical industry side. Okay, so given a data set, this is what you have to kind of answer. Now for that, let's go back to the data set. Let's mention about a few things which were mentioned already over here by Rohit in the chat. So let's first look at recency. This is what is identified, recency, which is when was the last transaction done. Okay, so this is our first part. Then we have our next part, which is frequency, which we easily understand. This is how frequently things are happening. Transactions are happening. Okay. And the last part is the monetary value, which is easy to understand. So we have the monetary value. Which is easy to understand. Okay. Now, this is what we have for now. So over here, let's look at these questions one by one and start segmenting these people through an automated process. Okay. So over here, let's look at, first of all, customers. Let's quickly count them. So you would use a typical count function. Okay. Let's see. So we have 75 customers, let's say, in this database. Let's also look at when is the database from, what is the timeline over which we have this data series. So we have a min function to look at. This data is coming from 31st May. So let's look at the max side of things. Okay, so we are quickly looking at the data range, and we have looked at, let's say, how many customers. Okay, so this data is from 31st May 2018, and I think there is a random date which is coming 2023. Anyways, this is good to go. This is our data timeline. Now let's go to the next part. We need to do a RFM ranking. Okay, so over here we need to do a scoring, recency, frequency, and monetary. We need to do a ranking. Okay, so over here, how do we go about this? Is let me just merge them up. Yeah, we can create buckets. So that is what, Rohit, we will do over here. RFM's ranking. You can try this out later on in your Excel as well. You have automatic tools also existing, which is what companies use, but just to give you a step-by-step approach. Okay. Now we'll use over here something called as a rank function. Okay, so rank this particular, let's say, date on this particular series. So we will rank order, first of all these data points. Okay, so this is kind of going to help us with, you can have a descending or a ascending rank, that doesn't matter. I'm keeping it ascending. Just 1 minute. All right, so over here, let's do it for all the sets. So we have the recency rank already. Let's go for frequency, same thing. Let me change this column. We have the rank for frequency. So first thing that we're doing is the ranking part. The last thing that we need to pick up is for the monetary part. So first we have ranked the data. This is called a rank ordering. The first step is done. Okay. So now we have some set of rank or ranking or bucketing which is available. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to do a RFM score. Okay. So we need to kind of go for the next step, which is where we have the data set which is of 75 customers. Suppose typically when we create segments, 3 to 5 segments is considered to be quite good to go. You can create more as well. Let's say just for an example over here, we will want to create 5 RFM segments. So let's say I'm defining over here, we will create 5 RFM segments. And for these 5 RFM segments, let's define the ranges. So let's say over here, if we look at, just give me a minute. Yeah, sorry. So over here, let me define these 5 segments. So let's say overall we have 75 customers. We can break them into 5 segments. And each segment would be, let's say, first segment, we'll have first 15 or top 15 ranks coming under this RFM segment. Then we'll go to, let's say, up to 30, the next one, up to 45, next one, up to 60, the next segment, and then up to 75. So we'll have all our stuff ordered. And over here, if you want to kind of group them up, we need to define our cutoffs. So let's say the first cutoff would be 1 to 16. If it is above 16 or above, we'll keep, or up to 30, we'll keep it up in segment number 2. If the score is 31, 46, and beyond. Okay. 61 and beyond would be all these ranks would be grouped under the next segment. Okay. Now we have a function called as VLOOKUP, which is a very simple function that we can use to quickly do our RFM scores. So R score, F score, and we have M score. Let's give it a second step as a name. We have RFM scoring is what we're doing based on segment rank order that we already established. So over here, let's do our next step. Let's do a VLOOKUP. Okay. Have you guys been, do you know about the VLOOKUP function? Has it been covered somewhere, or you guys would have used it in practice? Okay, I hope you guys have done it. Yeah, yes, okay, great. So, sorry. Let's do it over here. I just need to score them. If it is, let's say, our top segment, we'll give it a high score. These are the top segments that we're creating. The highest ones, the best frequencies, we'll kind of, the high RFM scores will be our best segment. We want to retain them. Let's create these limits and let's put up a VLOOKUP quickly and sort this out again. So we look up for this value under this table. Okay, so we are getting our R score. Let me just okay, so now we are rank ordering this entire table. So we have 5 segments in which we have divided on the R score basis. let's do the same for F frequency and monetary. Now we have done our classification quite quickly over here. We need to combine them together. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's take an average, a very simple average of the RFM ranks. And based on that, we have the overall RFM segment. Okay, this is, let's say, our overall RFM segment is what we have valued. Now, let me. Okay, you have covered in Excel course. All right, great. So this is where, let's say we have a segmentation. Now, let me round this off. Let's keep it to 2 decimal places. And let's see now what we have created. Okay, I'll just do a conditional formatting over here. So let's create these color scales. Higher the better. So higher means we have a valuable customer. Let's put a filter over here and let's see what we have created. Okay. Now, are we all clear with the very simple approach that we have taken? Are we all clear with how this ranking, scoring, and segment has been created? Are we all good to go with that? Yeah. So now let's quickly do a quick large to small thing. Now, see, we have the segments now. So let's say, suppose we define those customers which, based on our rank ordering, are having a score of 4 or beyond. This is our, these are those sets of customers which have a very large, RFM score. Okay? So these are those customers which are probably our loyal customers. Okay? These are the ones which we want to retain. These are giving us good business and we want to continue with them. Okay? So this is, let's say, our loyal customer base. Now, I'm just defining it arbitrarily. We can have 3.67 could have been considered as well, but let's say 4 plus, we are taking it as loyal customers. Let's say 3.67, at least if things are above 3, let's say this is our next set of customers, which are probably our upsell customers. Okay? So let's say we would want to retain them. We can upsell to them, maybe a better version of the product, and probably we can have extra revenue coming in from here. Okay? Let's look at another segment. So let's say we have loyal customers, upsell customers. We have another segment, let's say 2.5 plus. We have this customer segment of cross-sell. Okay? Let's say we sell them a combination, a combo pack, which is where we expect probably they can graduate towards then later on the upsell customers. And then we have a next set of customers. Probably these are the customers which probably are not giving us such amount of huge benefits. Okay, so probably this is where this is a tricky set. Okay, let's say from here, at least if they are above 2, these are my customers, which are my churn customers. Probably they will leave us, but we don't want to leave them. We don't want them to leave. Probably we'll give them discounts. And this is where I can have a specific offering defined. Okay, we can have a new product which we might look at because maybe these customers are not coming to us. Okay? These are the customers, the last set, which probably we are ready to lose. Okay, can lose. Okay, we can afford to lose, and we don't want to retain them. These customers probably. This is a standard kind of approach which companies build. And on the basis of this, we can have our strategy defined. So let's say I just use this data over here. So let's say we have our loyal customers. My strategy is over here, design a loyalty program. Okay, let's have a loyalty card probably launched. Let's focus on the retention of these customers. That is something which is very crucial. Here, we can also run a referral program. Okay? So ask them to get us more customers. This can be our very specific strategy for this set of customers. Similarly, we can keep on defining for others. Okay, so let's say we can have our upsell customers. I can define over here that, let's create a premium product, work on product branding, for example. This is where probably focus on upselling, of course, and create differentiation for these set of customers. They will be happy with that. So this is how we can keep on defining. I mean, I'm defining it here for if it just two sets of customers, we can have it for individual sets as well. That will be our customer behavior based strategy. I mean, based on RFM segmentation, just one piece over here. But this is something which a lot of companies do it and take real-time decisions on the basis of this. Okay, so probably you guys figure out in your companies if you get an opportunity to work on RFM segmentation, or maybe this is a very primitive kind of stuff, but it can be very impactful. Okay, so maybe you have sample data sets uploaded on the asynchronous content as well. See if you can on your own try to do an RFM. Even you can improvise further on the things that I have shown. Bring in your elements of your experience and see if you can create a very good model on RFM basis for your companies. Okay. The last part over here for our session today is on the customer churn. But before that, let me just quickly check with you. Are we all good to go with the RFM segmentation? Do you see any particular industry where RFM can be applied very well? Okay, KP saying yes. All right, so I hope we are all good to go. Any particular industry which you feel where RFM can be very valuable segmentation? E-commerce, okay, very nice. E-commerce entirely. Do you think OTT platforms, can they use RFM segmentation? OTT platforms like Netflix, Z. Yeah, so they're actually using it also. Okay, so Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on and so forth. They have been using, the RFM segmentation. Also, RFM is used for content recommendation. Okay, so content recommendation engines are built on RFM segmentations as well at times. So these are some good examples to carry forward next time you guys spot it. Let's look at the last part for our session today, which is about the customer churn concept and strategies. Now, generally, we don't want to lose customers, but I've shown you that on the basis of RFM segmentation, we can have maybe a few segments identified which we are willing to use. Okay, if the CAC is too high, if the customer service cost is too high with respect to the benefit that we can get, then in that case, probably we are okay to even lose those customers. Okay? Anyways, from the concept of customer churn, I think we all understand that we don't want to generally lose customers who are paying money to us. This is because the cost of acquiring new customer is very high as compared to cost of upselling, cross-selling, or basically selling to the existing customers. Okay, so this is what is depicted in this infographic as well. It costs around 6 to 7x more to gain a new customer as compared to maybe selling to an existing customer itself. And this is very true for, very, very impactful for B2B business. Okay, anyone over here from a B2B industry, so where business to business, you are selling products to another company, anyone from that background? Over here in our batch. Okay, so why specifically? Okay, UVN is saying in the past, which company UVN or which industry? Okay, Schneider. Okay, all right. So Schneider is a great example, by the way. So in my case, I was with Gulf Oil Lubricants, and we were selling. We were competing with Shell and Castrol. We were selling our products to other manufacturing companies. And this is where the realization was that, when you want to go to a new customer, first of all, getting their attention, getting a call fixed, getting a visit fixed, that itself is a lot of effort, especially in a B2B part where the sales cycle is very long. Secondly, after you have been there, then also probably it takes multiple iterations to make that first sale possible. Even sometimes the first trial run making it possible is very difficult. Same thing is on the B2C side as well. Before the purchase happens, there is a lot of cost that we incur, maybe making people aware, making people interested. This is what is an effort which is saved if we are retaining our loyal customers, retaining our profitable customers. And this is where the focus is something called on a term called as customer retention. A 5% increase in customer retention can do wonders in terms of company profitability. So this is a key focus, which we'll also discuss in our next session when we discuss about product and pricing analytics. Over here, from the perspective of our session today, if you look at the leading causes of customer churn, I think in your own personal experiences also, you would have come across things. 88% of the leading causes of churn are these 5 reasons. Okay, so first of all, poor onboarding. People went to your store, they didn't like the way store manager was behaving, they didn't like the store ambience. That poor onboarding itself is a cause of concern. The weak customer relationship or the customer service part is another one, which are the other reasons because of which people leave. Difficult user experience. Let's say if you look at the success of companies like Zerodha itself, many people in India, they had their demat accounts. But if you had a demat account with, let's say, State Bank of India, SDFC Bank, ICICI, Kotak, the demat account used to be so complicated that people will not be able to use it, and it would be just a passive thing. Okay, Zerodha or other companies like Upstocks, Grow, they made it so simple on the UI UX part that they gained a large amount of customers. In fact, they have the huge customers set itself. Similarly, there are many other companies as well, other industries where customer experience, the user experience itself, has been the key reason for churn. Sometimes ignoring customer complaints, though generally I think the companies won't be doing it. But yes, if customers are having a perception that their complaints are being ignored or not attended to on at the right time, then this is a leading cause of churn as well. There are various ways in which churn is being measured. And the best example of that would be in the gaming industry. We'll see that in our session tomorrow. But the concept is something like this. We have daily active user, which almost companies are monitoring on their websites and apps. Out of this daily active users, we can look at whether the daily active user base is consistent throughout, let's say, a few number of days, or is it kind of dropping? Are there spikes? So daily active user can be a good measure of understanding on a daily basis whether churn is happening or people are engaged. We can also do it on a frequency of weekly or monthly active users. If you're working in a company which is into social media or which is into, let's say, a digital first approach, these are 3 matrices which are very frequent. For example, things like Ghana.com, Shopify, things like Spotify itself, or e-commerce platforms, Zomato, Swiggy. These are the companies which do track these matrices. Apart from this, if you have a platform like YouTube or let's say social media platforms like Instagram and all, you would want to look at sessions per daily active user. So it's not just you want your people or your customers to have activity on a daily or a weekly basis, but you want them to come back again and again. Okay, this is true for gaming industry as well. Yeah, okay. All right. So I think this is where probably we will end for our session today. I mean, the last 5 easy ways to implement customer churn strategies is what originates from the matrices that we have discussed. So of course, we focus on creating a culture of personalization. This is where the matrices that we were discussing on NPS, CSAT, they help. We try to look at making onboarding painless. And this is where the customer experience or UI UX comes into picture. Incorporating feedback and suggestions. Every company has their feedback mechanisms. They do help a lot. In fact, capturing voice of customers is a good way to kind of deal with customer churn. Of course, customer service and effective pricing strategy goes hand in hand. So I think these are the few things which we have for our session today. If you guys have any questions or queries, we can take it up right now. We do have some time. There is a feedback link which is also mentioned, I guess, in the chat. So you can mention your feedbacks. If you have any questions regarding the simulation as well, do let me know. I hope you guys are able to run the simulation. You have 2 attempts. There will be a debriefing session which will happen for the simulation. So there we will look at what were the learnings in your batch. How did people perform? Who did the best? What was the best strategy? We will discuss about that. Okay. I had mentioned about my credentials, so we can feel free to connect on LinkedIn or WhatsApp as well. I think this is where we stop for now. The presentations, have you guys got the presentation for session 1 and simulation briefing, as well as the session 2 presentation? I hope the presentations are available with you. We have 2 total attempts. Yes, you're correct, Soumyaji. So 2 total attempts for the simulation. Okay. Each attempt is a period of 4 years. Okay. So after 4 years, 1 simulation attempt is over. 2 attempts for practice and 2 additional attempts for test. Okay, as per my information, it is just 2 attempts is what I'm told. Maybe you can just write a mail. I'll also do that and just confirm it from them. Okay, from Upgraded Narsimuji. Nitin is saying, what is the future of Vodafone trading at 5 and 6? And do you think customer churn did happen a lot in Vodafone? Where did it fail with step? So Nitin, I would say, though maybe I think better would be to discuss offline, but I would say customer churn did happen for both Airtel and Vodafone Idea since Jio came into picture, because it was a huge step, right? Even now, I guess if you see this IPL is being offered, I mean, buffered free of cost, right, on Jio Cinema. So those are very strong steps. To deal with that competition, it is difficult, but nonetheless, you would see that many companies got wiped out, but Airtel and Vodafone Idea both are kind of there, and I think they will remain there. We will have a three player plus industry. Okay, great. So I think these are the points which are there from my side. Thank you guys for taking out your time. It was lovely hosting you. We'll catch up in our session tomorrow, and then we'll take it forward towards the product and pricing analytics part. Okay. Thank you. Bye. Take care. Good night.